We've had some good times, we've had some bad times, and we've had some I didn't fill in the rest of this spread times. But now it is time to flip through my 5th bullet journal. Starting first with the inside cover, here I just decided to put in my school timetable, so I always had a reference for it, and then really just decorate the rest of the page with stickers. There wasn't really any rhyme or reason to this, I just really wanted to fill the space. I really just wanted something that was bright and fun, and I think I achieved that. My theme for my start of journal pages was rainbow, so I wanted to make sure that my inside cover fit into that as well. So you can see I used rainbow colours on my timetable and also rainbow text. For my index and key, it doesn't really get a lot of use. For the key in particular, I really just wrote this in because there was space for it in the journal. And for my index, I actually wrote all of these pages out when I first set up my journal. And you can see I did write down the page numbers for each month, but I never actually ended up listing out any of the collections I put in here. Didn't use the second page of the index either. And then we're into my future log. Now, as you can tell from this large region of blank space here, the further I got on in the year, the less I used my future log. I did appreciate having a space to write down dates that fell outside of the life of this journal, but I didn't really use it to write down any of the dates that were within the life of this journal. So March through June, didn't really use it, whereas for July onwards, I do have some events written down here. Despite that, I really do love the layout of this future log, and I probably will use it again, but I haven't decided to use this one for my current future log. Moving on. We have my goal spread, and similar to the last one, didn't really get around to filling this one in completely either. I never really felt inclined to come back and look at this, but I do like the layout, I probably would use it again, but not for the journal I have currently. So my savings and spendings logs though, these ones are probably some of my favourite pages from this journal. For this one, it's just a bar graph of how much money came into my account and how much I spent each month, and I'd fill this in at the end of the month once I'd finalised all my budgeting. For my spending log, this was just like a year in pixels, where I have a colour representing how much money I spent, and then I'd fill in each day of the year depending on how much I'd spend. As you can see, I set these ones up for the entire of the year, so I am still going to be using these 2 pages. Rather than draw them out in my new journal, I figured I'd just come back and fill in these ones. Moving on, we have my to consume and wish list spread. Nothing special, just a simple running list. I probably didn't need to allow quite as much space as I did, but I don't really have anything against these ones. For my next one, we have my YouTube video planner and then my social media growth trackers. This is another spread that I've set up for an entire year, so I am still going to be using these ones. My YouTube video planner in particular I quite like. I think it's nice to have a space to plan out my videos further in advance than just month to month. After this we have my term scheduler, and I always love these pages. I find them really helpful for keeping me on track with where my lessons are headed. Though towards the end of these I did start getting a little bit slack about filling it in. So end of term 1, still fine, start of term 2, middle term 2, and then towards the end of this one, last 2 weeks in particular, I just didn't come in and fill them in. If you've watched my most recent journal setup video, you'll know that those ones are back in my new journal, with a pretty similar layout. For this one here we have TOM, or time of month, which I use to track when my period is and period related symptoms. The worst part about this layout is just setting it up. Not only do you have to write in all of the days of the month, you also have to go and write down an initial for each of the months, at least with the way I set it up. As you can see, didn't really end up filling this one in completely, but I did find it helpful and I do like the layout, so I've included it again in my current journal. After this we have my health related pages. Now I have stuck some post-it notes over this. I don't think you guys really need to know how much I weigh, but as you can probably tell from the emptiness of the rest of the spread, this one didn't really get used. I did really like the idea of having monthly health challenges though, so I have included those again in my current journal. Along with health challenges, I've also set myself up some financial challenges as well. This space here, although you can't see the title, was a space to write down any healthy meal ideas I had. But because my partner and I have gotten more involved with putting our recipes on OneNote, I haven't really used this space. Moving on, we have the last page of my start of journal setup, and this was a notes to self page. And although there is a fair bit of empty space here, I actually really valued having this one. This was just a space to write down any little things that I wanted to remind myself of later. So I split these into 3 sections. I had my likes, dislikes, and then other sections. So I found that throughout the life of this journal, things that I decided I really did like were crispy pork belly, kefir, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's a yogurt drink. It's actually really nice. KFC nuggets, and then I also put in brackets that this is problematic. I'm way too into KFC nuggets, like, they're so good. Anyways, pear and prosciutto bruschetta, go-karting, and axe throwing. I think the nice part about this is that it kind of serves as a little bit of a memory log as well, so some things that I experienced or got to try while I had my journal. In terms of dislikes, I decided I really don't like the roti from Tulsi. I love their naan, but their roti isn't for me. I do not like rye sourdough bread. I love sourdough, I don't like rye. I think that the Delmane pre-made pasta sauce is kind of bland. You can season it with salt and pepper, but you might as well just make your own. McDonald's chips really aren't that good. They kind of taste like cardboard that's been salted, especially if they're cold. Ugh. And Wattie's pumpkin soup wasn't really for me. Down the bottom I have a section for my other notes, so things that I could think about were starting my goal setting earlier. I left my goal setting for this year kind of to the last week before the year started, and I just felt that wasn't enough time. Count up the number of sets of slides I need to do at the start of the holidays and divide that over how many days I want to be working on them. Always pack your makeup. I found that last time I went to Melbourne I didn't pack it and then I felt like I needed it, so yep, always pack my makeup. When using my printer, that's the top left of the page to be printed on goes face down in the top right of the tray. That's only for my printer in particular, but it's a good note to have here because I always find myself needing to double check. And then the last one says, close the window before moving the plastic dongle. As you can see here, the window that I have in my study is an odd shape. So the curtains that we have this little plastic stopper at the top to stop the curtain from sliding backwards. But it doesn't actually go all the way to the end, so you have to kind of push it up if you want the curtains fully closed. The only issue is that one time I went to push this closed, it flicked off and the window was open and it fell out the 3rd story. Thankfully it landed in such a way that I actually was able to retrieve it. But yeah, lesson learned. So that's the end of my start of journal setup. Then after this we were on to January. And for January I had a stars kind of theme and it was all pink and blue. At the start of the year I wanted to try and make my splash page for the month kind of more functional. So I had a monthly calendar, a quote that was related to the kind of goals I was setting myself, a to-do list, and then a goals section as well. I kept this for at least 2 months, I don't think I kept it beyond that. But I did think it was cute, it just didn't get used as well as it could have. After this, we had my monthly log, and then also my habit tracker. Nothing too special about this one, just your regular vertical style. On this side of the page, I wanted to try and focus on work-life balance, so I was writing down one productive thing for work I'd done, and then one more leisurely thing that I'd done. On the side here we had my habit tracker, so a blue dot meant that I'd completed or finished that task, whereas a pink dot meant that I hadn't gotten done. As you can see here, I did not read. I did manage to make my bed every day though, so not really necessarily a habit I needed to track, but it was nice to have something that made me feel like I'd done something. Something that is interesting is looking back on the habits I was tracking. So here I had make my bed, budget, read, kitchen wipe down, recycling, tidying, and finishing by 7 p.m. So the finishing by 7 p.m. goes with that whole work-life balance that I was striving for. The kitchen wipe down, recycling, and tidying goes towards me trying to be better at actually contributing to keeping this household in a running order. I'm terrible at it, guys. I'm really bad at it. Reading more is a goal I've had for a while, still working on that one. Budgeting I'd track more just for a functional thing, so it's nice to know the last time I updated my budget, so I know how far back I need to look for any more updates I need to make. And then making the bed I think came from the idea that I was watching a video or something and it said you should always make your bed in the morning, so it's good to start with something that's a success. I don't know, I think I'm explaining this badly. Yeah, you make your bed in the morning so that you start with something successful and it sets you up for more successes for the rest of the day. That kind of a thing. Something like that, yeah. Anyways, moving on. So after this, I had my health log where I had my steps tracker, healthy habits, weight changes, and then also had my meal log here, which I did on this Dutch door that folds like this. So the nice part about having the folded Dutch door is that I didn't have to write out all of the days of the month again, because I could just fold it across and look at it that way. So it was close enough that I didn't have to write the numbers all out again. I did start trying to color code these, so anything that's in like the pale blue color was a not so bad for me meal. Anything in white was kind of like eh, and then anything in the pink was more like, oh yep, you should probably have made a better choice. In terms of healthy habits, I had up by 7:30 a.m, portion control, 2 liters of water, not eating junk food, no screens after 9, no eating after 7, and then bed by 10:30. Again, some of these didn't really happen. I had a space for notes, which I actually used, which was nice. I think it's easier to have my notes for each month in one kind of set collection, rather than having them scattered through all my weeklies. I should probably bring that back. Anyways, moving on. I have my social media scheduler, which was the same layout that I'd been doing for a while. So I had my Instagram posts along here, my Instagram story posts here, the things that I wanted to post on Facebook, my YouTube schedule, and then a notes section. If you've watched my more recent monthly setups, you'll know that this one has changed in its style, but I do still appreciate this style. I've just found a better use for some of the spaces. We have my one small thing page, which I was trying new in January. The intention for this one was one small thing I could do the next day that would improve upon the day I'd had the day before. That was poorly explained. So for instance, on the 1st, I would write down one small thing I could do on the 2nd to make my day on the 2nd better than my day on the 1st. The only issue is that towards the end of the month, this became less of one small thing and more like one major thing that you really should be doing. Good in theory, not so good in practice. We have the improvements tracker, which I love. I don't set one of these up anymore, but I do really love the way it looks. Even though I found it really damn difficult to fill in, I kept on filling in the wrong track. So for instance, I'm pretty sure that one of these kind of dark pinks down here is actually a mood rather than it is an improvement, but I can't remember which day that happened to, so... After this, I think we're straight into the weeklies. Yeah, so for January, my doodle challenge was called iconography, so they were all just icon-style doodles, and I decided to put those in my weekly pages. I was also trying to focus on doing things to improve myself, so I had my intentions, successes, and challenges sections that I'd used in November the year before. I really like this layout actually, I'd probably use it again. But moving on. We had the next weekly, similar idea, intentions, successes, challenges, small icon doodles, just a different way of setting it out. Again, quite like this one. For this one, I wanted to try and incorporate the level 10 life, so I have the categories of the level 10 life here, and then a couple of action steps. You can see some of these happened, some of these did not. JC Doodle challenge along the side, tasks and events, and then some other general to-dos and notes. This one's always been one of my favourite styles of weekly layout, so usually what I do for this is I section off this main section here to be each of the periods that I have in a school day, but because this was week 0, we weren't actually on a period schedule, we were just on a time schedule. So you can see I wrote down like blocks of time here for each of the different things we had going on, at least for the 4 days that we actually had week 0. In the other spaces, I put down, again, my intentions, successes, and challenges. I like the idea of this one. I don't think I'd use it again in this way, though. As I said, I really like this one when it's set up to be my school periods, because it looks a little bit more uniform. Having it more like a schedule, I don't know. I don't think I'd use it again in that way. After this, we just have a really nice, straightforward, simple weekly because this was the first week of school, and I just wanted something that was going to be really easy to use as I got back into the swing of things. After this, we have what is probably the only completed review of a month in this journal. As I've said previously, I really do like doing these monthly reviews. It's just that when I was doing them in this journal, they did not happen. I'd either write out a title and then not get around to it, or leave space to it and not get around to it. I mean, technically speaking, this one even isn't completed. You can see there's this large space here that I was going to use for something, it just didn't end up happening. But as I've done previously, I wrote down things I liked and didn't like about my journal for the month, my media for the month, so TV shows, books, movies, all of that kind of stuff, any events that we had, and then here I wrote down some things that I accomplished for each of my 9 goals, and then a couple of next steps for the ones that I could think of. For February, we have my planning page, and as you might remember, my theme for February was oceans, so I had a lot of blues and greens. I bought back that same cover page again that I had from January, which was again filled in to pretty much the same extent. We had my monthly log, featuring my underwater decorations. I'd probably have to say that February was one of my favourite colour palettes. I really loved using my oxide inks and doing my line work, and I especially love using this font. This has become one of my favourites. We have my habits and gratitude logs. On this one, again, a blue dot means it was completed, a green dot means that it wasn't, and you can see that some of these trackers I just did not fill in. I'm going to assume that those should all be green dots, but yeah. For my gratitude logs, I always love these. I love getting to try new fonts and drawing in little doodles and stuff. So these were just some of the things I was grateful for in February. We had my health tracker again. I think this might have been the last month that I bothered putting my health tracker in. I think I just ended up recombining it with my habits tracker. So I don't think I used it again in March, but I guess we'll find out. We have the improvements tracker, again in this square style tracker. I really love these ones because it's a lot easier to rule these out rather than trying to draw concentric circles in the circular style trackers. After this one, we had a failed meal log, so you can see I just didn't eat for the last 5 days. Okay, no, I ate, I just didn't record it. I think I gave the meal log another try though, but there is a point in this journal that I just gave up. We have the social media scheduler, pretty much the same as the month prior. My JC Doodle challenge, which I decided to put all on one page, and then a notes section that, as you can see, didn't get used. But it looks pretty. This was probably one of my favourite JC Doodle challenges. As I was working through, I decided I wanted to put dumb smiley faces on all of my doodles, so you can see that there's like a tiny smiley face on the anchor, and another small smiley face here on the seaweed. So each of them got their silly smiley. I also love how much of a hard time I have drawing fish in general, so what is this, a whale? And I know a whale's not a fish. And also my dolphin, which again, I know is not a fish. They both have like weirdly shaped faces, along with my shark, which is a fish, I think. I'm not a biology teacher. That's probably a good thing, considering I don't know whether a shark's a fish. I'm pretty sure a shark's a fish. You let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But these three, their faces just, oh, they're so weird looking. I love them. For February, because we were getting back into the swing of things for school, all of the weeklies go along this kind of similar theme where I had this green washi tape, which I love. I used my Uniball Signo on those to write down the header for the page, and I just kind of changed the positions of those and my daily boxes. So for this one we had mini calendar, daily boxes, and a running to do and notes list. For the next one, before we get on to the next one, I wrote down a couple of things that I was thinking about using these categories of let it go, prepare, and brainstorm. So these categories come pretty much straight from the checking in each month for the power sheets, and I just decided to put them in my journal. I think at the time it was helpful, even though it didn't really get filled in completely. Back into the weeklies though. So for this one, this was EOTC week, so I didn't have a lot to write down because for most of the week I was away on camp. So for the few days I was there that week, I wrote down those tasks here, and then this one was more just a memory keeping page. Another weekly, again just moving the position of the washi, having my monthly calendar here, events list for the week, and then my notes and to-dos. And similar again, just moving the washi position, to-do list, each day of the week, mini calendar. After this one, I left myself a space to write down a monthly review. It just didn't happen. And I think at some stage I thought I was going to go back and fill this in with something, maybe memory keeping or something like that. But again, it didn't happen. For March, my color palette was black, gold, and purple, and my theme was magic. So I think this was the last month that I actually used this style of splash page, because I was finding I just was not referring back to it. Another one of those things, cool in theory, not so cool in practice. I love the way it looks, I just didn't use it. So we have my monthly log, again back to that vertical style, my gratitude log, and this one I kind of filled with some stickers and washi at the bottom because I did not end up filling it in. I didn't like the idea of having the page left partially empty, so I just went and filled it with a couple of different black and white stickers. After this, we have my habits and steps trackers, and so for March, I was trying to get a little bit more decorative in my journal. I wanted to put a little bit more time and effort into the doodling aspect, or the decorative aspect. So here we had just this little sand timer, and then along the side on this one, we have the different chakras. I really love these trackers. I love the contrast between the purple and the black, and it was really fun getting to use my gold watercolor paint. After this, we have another failed meal log, so I think that this was the month, well, after this month. I think after March, I decided that these monthly meal logs in the style I was using them were not working for me, and I really needed to try and change something up, so when it came to April, I decided to put those on my daily checklists. March was also the month that I really fell in love with these paper bag headers, so it was just me putting a paper bag onto a piece of A4 paper, and then printing off, using my computer, the title for the pages. Another one of my social media trackers, again pretty much the same style as I showed you guys before, and that's just because it works. After this we have my daily doodles. So I actually released 2 different daily doodle challenges back in March. I had one that was all of the different tarot cards and one that was different magical symbols. So I decided to go with the magical symbols one, mostly because a simple doodle is my favorite kind of doodle. So in this one we have things like the symbols for the planets, symbols for the star signs, symbols for the seasons. I think that's about it. Oh, yep, and symbols for the elements. So, fire, water, earth, and air. So this page, okay, let's talk about this page. In March, I was going to try my hand at daily logging. I was going to make a genuine, valid attempt to do daily logging. And so you can see on this next page here, this is where my daily logging started. I was kind of trying to throw myself back to how I first started bullet journaling. And when I mean first started bullet journaling, I mean like my first 5 days in my bullet journal. Where I'd write down the title for the day, so, Friday, the date, in some kind of a decorative header. And then underneath that, I'd just write down my tasks. Any of the extra space that I'd have on the page, I'd just fill with decoration. And again, remember, this is my first 5 days in a bullet journal. This is how I started. But I wanted to have a space where I could write down tasks that I needed to get done on later dates. So the nice part about having a weekly spread is that for the week that you're in, if you're on the Monday, say, and there's something you need to do on the Thursday, there's a space to write that down because it's a weekly spread. But if I was doing dailies, I didn't really have that, which is why I set up this page. And I hate it so much. I tried to make it decorative by using stickers for my header and doing a drop shadow on my brain stream. This did not work for me at all. I did not like this page. As you'll see, after, Friday through Wednesday, and then to the Sunday, by this point I knew that this was not going to work out. I could not even really stand to look at this page, so I decided I'm just going to go back to my weeklies. To get myself prepped for getting into my weeklies, I wrote down a list of just things that were on my mind. So things that I knew I wanted to get done or check in about or rah rah rah. All of the little red crosses we have here are the things that I know that I finished. I never actually ended up checking them off though. So on the 11th of June, I was flicking back through here and I just decided to cross off the ones I knew that had happened. After this, we were into my first weekly for March. I think at this stage I was feeling a little bit defeated, so I just went for something simple with this decoration up the side, and honestly I really liked this one. I do typically prefer to have some kind of a running to-do list on my weekly spreads, but I thought that this page worked really well for me. You can see at this stage I was trying not to write down any of my events on my weekly spreads because I wanted to actually refer back to my monthly logs, which is a problem that I've had for quite a while. Not referring back to them, that is. So setting them up, putting all the events in, and then transferring all the events to my weekly spreads anyways, and never referring back to my monthly logs. Moving on to the next weekly though, I did start including those events again, so you can see I wrote these down the bottom of each of these boxes. This one, I don't know if you guys will remember the plan with me. I was doing so well. I had these really nice kind of even and relatively straight lines going around each of these boxes. And then when I got to this one, because it curves into the middle of the book, my hand slipped and the line just went completely skew-if. So I ended up going back around each of these boxes and just making this kind of multi-line, and then adding a little bit of my gold paint for decoration. I quite enjoyed this layout. Again, I had my daily boxes that I wanted to have, and I also had space for my running to-do list. Onto another weekly. You can see that I continued this kind of arrow-like motif. So I had those on the past few weeklies. I had them down the sides here, as a divider here, and then as a top banner here. For this week, I decided to get away from the daily boxes and instead have a running to-do list where I could write down when I wanted to get a task. So I'd use a box to signify the day that I wanted to get something done, and then cross out the day that I actually did get that done. So you can see my year 12 marking here. I started it on the Monday, intended to have it finished, but it didn't get finished till the Thursday. Similar with my physics slides on equilibrium, I had intended to do them on the Wednesday and then ended up doing them on the Thursday. I quite like this style of running to-do list. I think it works quite well for me, so I'm going to probably try one of these again in my new journal. After this, I decided not even to bother leaving myself room for a review because I was not filling those in, and we get straight on into April. For April, I wanted to have a theme where most of the decoration just came from black line work. So for the colour palette, I just had my black Pit Artist pens and then also a couple of different green pens. One being the Staedtler Tri Plus Fineliner and one being the Tombow. You can see for my splash page, I stepped away from the one that I'd had for the first 3 months and just went for something that was more decorative. This one's probably one of my favourite cover pages that I've ever done. The doodles for this one were inspired by Christina of My Life in a Bullet, and I continued to use those throughout all of the pages of the monthly setup. So splash page. After this we had the monthly log, and a lot of things happened here on the monthly log that weren't really supposed to happen. So I drew out the mini calendar up the top here, and by the time I'd finished doing all of the doodles around the outside, I don't know why, but I had it in my mind that, oh my god, there's actually 31 days in April. I need to make sure that I cram 31 days into the bottom section here. So I crammed in my 31 days, and then my better sense or judgment actually hit me and said, no, you're wrong. There are only 30 days in April. So I end up having this kind of like random 31st day here that doesn't actually exist. And then this is kind of like weirdly close to my decoration. Not ideal, could be worse. For this one, each of the little doodles I have on this mini calendar just represents something that happened that day. So money plus, money minus, that's money coming in from my job, and money going out because of loan repayments. The little people with the little card, I guess you could say, that was parent-teacher interviews. The little planes are going to Melbourne from Melbourne, and then other little things that happened as well. I gave myself space for a running to-do list for the month. Didn't really use it as well as I could, but that's okay. After this we have my habits and steps trackers. Now, I don't know if it picks up very well on camera, but you might be able to see all of these tiny white dots in all of these white squares. Originally, I went through and put black dots in all of those to say that I'd intentionally not coloured them in. But at the end of it, I thought it looked really dumb, so I went over it with my Uniball Signo white gel pen, just to get rid of them all. The nice part about the pages of the Scribbles That Matter is that the paper, although it's not pure white, it's close enough that you don't really notice the Uniball Signo. For my steps tracker, this is kind of like a spiralized bar graph, so the distance of each of the bars just represents how many steps I did in each day. In terms of the pale green, dark green on this was kind of like a high bar, low bar thing that you might have seen from Miss McKenna's Life Leverage. She has an awesome channel, you should totally check her out. But essentially for each of these habits I have a low bar for myself, so as if to say I completed something towards this habit but didn't really complete it fully, and then a high bar which is like a full completion of the habit. As you can see, my habits in April didn't really go well at all. Towards the start of the month I was doing okay, but then I went on holiday to Melbourne, and by the time I got back I was just still feeling equally lazy, so they didn't really pick up again until the new month. After these ones, we have my I am and doodles pages. Now, my I am is probably one of my favourite pages in this journal as well. This was where I just tried to go in every day and write down something about myself, so whether that be an adjective or a noun, just something that describes who I am. After this one, social media spread, and this is where I kind of started to realise that I wasn't really using these two columns at all. So I wrote myself a note that said my stories and Facebook posting lists aren't working. I'm going to change it up next month. After this, I made myself a memories page, and the extent of me filling it in, as you can see, was just writing down the media that I consumed that month. So again, movies, TV shows, games, that kind of thing. For my weeklies in April, I decided not to do weeklies. I instead went in with dailies on these little Dutch doors that had these little tabs. For April, because I was spending a decent amount of time away, I just wanted something that was simple and repetitive. Though, of course, with anything that I do that's simple and repetitive, by the end of the month I was pretty much sick of it. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all good, pretty filled in. You can see that for each of these I have like my top 3 for the day, a section for a to-do list, 3 kind of main takeaway points from the day, whether they be like successes or challenges or something else, and then my meal logging for the month I put down the bottom here. As you can tell, some of these are certainly more filled in than others, much like the rest of the journal. While I was away with my mum on an art retreat, I used this mostly as kind of like a log of the things I had done rather than a to-do list. So it's kind of more just like a memory log for those days. I'm going relatively quickly through these ones. I don't think you need to see every single page in a lot of detail, because they're pretty much all the same. As you can see though, towards the end of the month, I didn't even bother filling in the sections that were like the headers. So you can see that like here I wrote breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks. On these ones I just didn't even fill those in, because that's how sick of this layout I was getting. I was going to do something with these sidebars here, but never got around to that. And for May, we were on to my Disney theme. Oh, I loved this so much. One, I'm like a super fan of Disney. I mean, are there any kind of just half fans of Disney? People who are like, yeah, Disney's okay. Like, I'm pretty sure that most people who like Disney are like, I love Disney. I don't know, that might just be like a stereotype. That's probably a stereotype. I don't know. Disney's great, I think. Moving on. My colour palette for this were these 5 here and then just black. So again, I was wanting to do a lot of those kind of contrasts of the dark, dark black and then the bright colourful colours. Bright colourful colours? Anyways. Again, brought back my paper bag headers. So we have Disney Castle splash page. We had the scene from Tangled for my monthly log. And you'll see that throughout this setup I was doing the white text on black boxes because, as I mentioned, contrast was what I was going for. I put myself a to-do list section in here. As you can see, didn't use it. For my habits tracker, it was Mulan. And as you'll remember if you watched this setup video, I was trying to have quotes that kind of fit with the pages they were on. And quotes that were actually from the movie that I was drawing pictures from. So, for our Mulan quote, we have, "This represents discipline, and this represents strength. You need both to reach the arrow." Which I thought was pretty fitting for a habits tracker, considering most of my habits are related to goals that I have. When filling in any of my trackers for this month, ignoring the steps tracker though, I used these little Mickey heads, and I thought it was kind of a cute way to fill it in. that was still relatively easy to draw. It's just 3 circles chucked together. For my steps tracker, this is probably one of my favourite steps trackers. So I had Monday through Sunday written out through the bottom here, and then each of the coloured lines I have on here represents one of the weeks from the month. Up the side here, these numbers just represent each 1,000 steps, so I could put down a dot that represent how many steps I'd done for each of those days. After this, we had my 2 lines a day spread, which I actually ended up filling in. That's really impressive for me, especially when I have to write 2 lines a day. Gosh, what a commitment. I know that seems silly, but a lot of the times when I do these 2 lines a day spreads, there are ones that just do not get filled in. I mean, admittedly there is one here that says I can't remember what happened on this day, but I still filled it in, and that's a good thing. For this one I wrote down, life's not a spectator sport. If watching is all you're gonna do, then you're gonna watch your life go by without you. Which comes from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, as said by one of the gargoyles. Not that I remember what her name was. Good quote all the same. Moving on, we have my social media log. So you can see this one does have quite a bit of a change. It goes from being 2 pages to 1 page, and I just have my Instagram posts, my YouTube schedule, and then the little habits that I want to try, or at least wanted to try and do, that were social media related. So things like posting to my story, replying to and making comments, and then posting on Facebook. On the side here, we had my prompts for the daily doodles. So for this one, considering it was Disney month, I decided to do Disney movies as my prompt list, and these were just written in the order that they were released. As you can probably tell, it isn't every Disney movie, but I did want to make sure that they were animated, and they were released by, I believe, Walt Disney Studios. Last couple of pages for the setup, we had my mood tracker, which I did like. I really enjoyed this one. This one just depicts a scene from Cinderella when she's washing the floor, and then each of the bubbles represent each of the days. So I could colour them in based on my mood for that day. You can see that some of these bubbles do have multiple colours to represent the multiple moods that I had those days. Then we had a quote page, and we're into my weekly spreads. So kind of similar to what I did in February, where I had that one washi tape that I was using and that one colour. For my weekly spreads in March, I wanted to use this metallic washi tape, not this colour all the time, but this style of washi, and then these colours. After having just the green and black combo of April, I was really craving some more colourful spreads. Similar to what I did back in January, I also put my doodles for each day on my weeklies as well. So we had the first 5 days, we had the next 7, this one I reintroduced my running to-do list, the next 7, so you can see that for some of these I do have more doodles than there are days of the week, and this is just because I wanted to be able to split the page evenly and not draw a doodle in the crack of the book. I don't know about you guys, I found it really difficult to draw in there. So it was much easier just to have 4 on either side and introduce a new one. So for this week I decided to draw 2 from Hercules, where I also decided to put Hades in here as well. On this one you'll see one of the issues that I have with my Univol Signo pen is that sometimes when my book is closed, and even if I've let all of the white ink dry, I do get transfer, and I've found this happening in my dingbats quite a lot on my start of journal setup pages. It's really frustrating. It does technically just come off with an eraser. I mean, I can show you. See, so if I'm careful here, I can just erase that part. But if I then go and try and go over Tarzan here, I'm going to end up smudging the white ink. So although I've gotten rid of the parts that were there that shouldn't be, I've now started to smudge faintly around the actual letters that I have, which is not ideal, kind of annoying. Haven't found a solution yet. I'll let you know if I do. Despite that though, I still do really like the white text on black. I just need to find a way to stop it from smudging to the other side of the page. Then we have the last weekly for March. After this, I did again try to put in a memories page, and yet again I failed at actually filling it in. For that reason, I'm probably gonna skip doing memories pages in my current journal. I'm just finding that I'm not filling them in, despite how much I really do love having them. Which is really such a bummer. Like, I love being able to look back on them and see kind of a snapshot of my month. But as you've been able to see, they have not been getting filled in. Coming up to my last month, for June, my theme was that washi tape Rachel got from Jason. So I was using these 6 Muji washi tapes, and I picked some colours that fit in that colour palette. So we have my Zentangle splash page, my monthly log, my habits and steps trackers, which I really love these. I love doing steps trackers as line graphs. I like to see the line go up and down. I especially like to see it go up. I don't so much like to see it go down. I find that the nice part about the line graph I had before, so this one here, is that it's really easy to see weekly trends. I can see that typically on a Friday I will do more steps than other days. Typically on the weekend I will do less, depending on what I've actually been getting out and doing. Wednesday seems to be the most consistent day. As you can see, all of my dots are really close together. Which is why for my current month I've decided to go back to this style rather than this one here. If you were trying to make getting more steps a priority, it might be nice to have it in this kind of a setup so that you could see throughout the month did your average kind of track upwards. Either way though, I really love line graphs for steps trackers. As you'll remember, for June I was doing everything on Dutch doors, so I didn't have to write down all of the numbers out every single time I wanted to do a tracker. So for my steps tracker, I could fold the page over this way, and it's close enough that I can actually see what day each of these dots corresponds to. On the next page over, we had my notes and social media. Again, social media are a little bit different, only really focused on my Instagram posting for each day, and then I had my YouTube schedule on the side here. After this, we were into my weeklies, and not really weeklies, there's only 4 days per page, and I tried to make it so that each day had a half page. So first 4 days, again on these Dutch doors so they can all fold. Next 4, and I must say, I really did like this layout. I loved having this space down the bottom for being able to journal and kind of reflect on how my life was going at that point. It just sucked that during this month I got sick and stressed and overworked, which meant that towards the end of the month, or even I guess you could say towards mid-month, I just stopped filling it in. It would have been really nice to have a full month all filled out like these ones were, but that was just not on the cards for me, I guess. So for these ones, which if you've watched my recent setup video, you will have already seen, so I'll just go through these a bit more quickly. When I got to this week, I wrote myself a note just saying that I need to catch up on things, so I'm using these daily lists for a brain dump, and I just wrote down everything that I needed to do. I know there's a lot of this that isn't really checked off, and that's because, honestly, some of these things just didn't get done. I do still have to transfer some of these tasks over to my new journal, but that is a task for another time. And finishing this one up, we had my June review, which, in classic Jess form, didn't get done. Again, such a bummer. So, finishing off my journal though, we had my plan for my July monthly setup, where I have my travel theme. We have my plan for my bullet journal number 6 setup, where I have my black, well, I don't actually. It was going to be black and gold themed. It ended up being more like black and brown because I wanted to use those paper bag headers that I'm so in love with, and I didn't actually end up deciding if I wanted to use my gold watercolor. After this, I just have some brainstorming pages. So I had my brainstorm page for what I wanted the rest of the year to look like. I had a page to write out a snapshot for who I was at this point of 2019. But as you can see, I feel spread too thin right now. I didn't end up getting it filled in because of the sickness and stress and the overwork and the overwhelm, all of that. We had my level 10 life, where I outlined each of my categories and a rating out of 10 for each of them. And then along the side here, I just wrote whether they went up compared to the start of the year or down. And you can see that a few of these went down, a few of these stayed the same, and a couple of these went up, so that's nice. I then wrote out the top 3 that I want to focus on for the rest of the year. So this was health, work, and personal. This page was intended to be used to write down some of the things that I wanted to change about myself and then how I kind of intended on getting there. Again, sickness, overwork, rah rah rah. This didn't get filled in. For my On My Mind page, I did use this a little bit, I didn't use it a little bit. So for this one I was mainly just kind of brainstorming the things that I'd have in an ideal week. So what would I do for work in an ideal week? What would I do for myself in an ideal week? That kind of thing. I wrote out some of the things that I wanted to migrate to my next journal. Some of these really I can tick off, so like my events in particular I can tick off, because those ones have been transferred. For my tasks though, I need to transfer those to my holiday to-do list, which I have not started setting up. Well, actually, by the time that you guys see this video, I will have finished it, but as of the time of filming this, I have not started that. After this, we have my thoughts about my next journal, so a couple of the things that I wanted to include, or some things that I wanted to consider. Spreads that I wanted to include, which was probably one of the most useful back of journal pages I've had. It was really good to lay out all of my ideas before I started setting up my new journal, even if I made an error on the header. And then after this, we just drew out, well, I say we, I just drew out some thumbnails for my start of journal pages, so I could kind of see in what order I wanted to put them and what kind of things I wanted to include. And then after this, we just have some miscellaneous other pages. So this one was for a giveaway, as you can probably tell from the header. This was another giveaway. This one I was writing down some of the accounts that you can tag your pictures in for Instagram. After this, we had another giveaway page. Some of the things in my house that I wanted to replace or like adultify. A couple of these are checked off, a couple of these need to be transferred over. And then for the last couple pages, these were my unit plans for school. I promised that more of this unit got completed than is actually filled in, but as you can probably tell by the lack of filling it in, I did not come back and look at these very often. So we had Year 12 Physics, Year 12 Chemistry, Year 11 Phys Chem, and another Year 11 Phys Chem. We had my pen test page, which because I'd already used a Scribbles That Matter before, I didn't really need to use this very much. But at one page my pen stopped working, so I needed to scribble something out on some paper. Might as well use the back of the journal for that. And I figured that it kind of looked a little bit like pubes. So I wrote down pubes. Ew. And the mindfulness page. So I'm going to go and fill this one out, but just in case you haven't seen one before, this one says, flip through this journal from the first page to the last. See all the scribbles, a mirror to your past. What have you learned? How have you grown? Reflect and ponder when you are alone. So having you here is probably close enough to alone. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go write down some thoughts now. So here I've written for myself, this half of 2019 has been damn difficult. I came into this year with a lot of good intentions, but burnout, stress, and other similar nastiness has gotten in my way. It is nice though that I can recognize this and use it to help me move forward. Looking through this journal, you will have seen the number of pages that I had that just were not filled in. And this isn't for a lack of wanting to fill them in. I love having full pages. I love it when my spreads are completed. I love my monthly review pages. But stress and workload and other areas of my life has really prohibited me from doing what I love in here. But as I said, the nice part is that now as that I've recognized that the things I'm doing at the moment aren't sustainable, the amount of stress that I put on myself is not sustainable, I can at least accommodate that when I'm thinking about what I do and don't sign myself up for. I love journaling. I love getting to work in here. And I love making videos for you guys. And I want those to be my priorities going forward. For the last page though, we just have my gusted pocket in the back, which as per usual just has some of the things I've collected throughout the life of this journal. So we have some stamps, a sticky note from my head of department that says congrats on the cast job, which technically was given to me last year. We have a Christmas card from last year, which is from one of my students. We have a card from the same student last year who was apologizing for spraying my cardigan with bleach. Another card from another one of my students from last year who surprised me when I was having a rough time. A little piece of paper that is shaped and coloured like a typewriter. Some stickers with days of the month. And then another card from another student that I had last year. The stickers I'm going to put away, the cards I'm going to slip back in here. All in all, I really loved this Scribbles That Matter. I loved my monthly themes. I loved trying new layouts and changing up old ones. And although there were quite a few spreads in here that weren't finished or didn't work, I do appreciate the lessons that I learned from them. A question I have for you guys though, what was the favourite layout or theme or spread that you saw in my journal? Or better yet, what's your favourite theme or spread from your journal? Thank you for watching, and if you liked today's video, feel free to go check out another one. Until next time, bye!